Let's get the opinion of my former congressional colleague, Congressman Peter King of New York, the Republican who is a member of the House Committee on Homeland Security and that committee's former chairman. Pete, it's always good to have you here on America's Forum.
JD, thank you. Good to be with you.
Well, what about the release of this report? Why was it done yesterday?
Well, I think, in fact, I'm convinced that Dianne Feinstein and the Democrats wanted to make sure this report got out. They knew with the Senate being taken over by Republicans. Republicans did not support the report. And it was essential for Dianne Feinstein and these Democrats to get the report out. And quite frankly, I think the report is a disgrace. I don't see what purpose it serves. Initially, it's going to put American lives at risk. There's no doubt about that. The Obama administration has said that. There's embassies on alert all over the world as a result of this report coming out. But secondly, and maybe most importantly, the report is entirely misleading and wrong, and it's a slander among the good men and women of the CIA. Listen, you were down here on September 11th. You know what it was like afterwards, the fear and the legitimate fear that we were going to be attacked again. And the CIA was being criticized for not having gotten enough intelligence beforehand. And all the pressure was put on them to find where the next attack would be coming from, to find out who could be behind it, what could be done to stop it. And everything they did was approved by the Justice Department, by the President. It was made known to the key members of the Intelligence Committee, both Democrat and Republican. They knew about it. And not to oversimplify it, but to me, to put it in the starkest terms, if we had captured Mohammed Atta on September 9th or September 10th, 2001, and we knew that somewhere within the next day or two, 3,000 Americans were going to be killed in a terrorist attack, and they wouldn't have to jump out windows, they wouldn't have to be burned to death, if we could find out where that attack was going to be. Are you saying that we would not have held Mohammed Atta's head underwater until he told us where that was going to be? That would be a crime against humanity. That would be a war crime. To me, the crime would be if we didn't do it. And that is what was recreated in the days, weeks, and months after 9/11. There were other attacks coming, which would have resulted in the deaths of thousands of Americans, and it was essential that we do all we can to stop them. And I don't consider this torture. And when Dianne Feinstein says we have to have a just society, the fact is we're talking about enemies here, enemies of a foreign power who are coming to kill us. And if you grade this in any way compared to what goes on in wars, this was really very mild. And why these people have this hate America first attitude, this self-loathing, this self-hatred is beyond me.
Well, Peter, you put it in the context of 9/11/2001. Let's go to the context of yesterday. December 9th, 2014, the fact that Jonathan Gruber is testifying on the House side, all that he had to say about Obamacare that caused such problems for the left. Isn't it a reasonable assumption that they held the report until the day he was going to testify and released it to gain prominence and blow that story out in terms of its headline value?
Well, it certainly did. That's the reality. In fact, virtually nobody was aware of Gruber unless you're a real political observer yesterday. All the news, all the attention was put on the CIA report. And listen, we have to assume that there's politics involved here. When you're talking about Harry Reid and the Democrats, you're talking about the administration. It didn't have to be yesterday. It could have been today. It could have been tomorrow. It could have been next week. They had really any time until Congress finishes. They certainly could have done it right up to the, they could have done it right as Congress was adjourning for the year. No, they didn't have to do it yesterday, no.
About 2.5 minutes remain, Pete. Let's go back to yesterday. Dianne Feinstein, the Senate Intelligence Committee chairman, appeared on CNN last night confirming there were some political reasons for the report's release. Let's take a listen to her exchange with Wolf Blitzer.
Is it possible that something would happen? Yes. But it's possible that something happens even without this. There have been beheadings. There have been attacks without this report coming out. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't clean our house.
Well, Peter, in that interview, she made it clear that the Democrats were going to make sure this report was released before she left the chairmanship. In her mind, the risks don't outweigh the so-called rewards.
Wow. We're talking about 3 people who were waterboarded, who are al-Qaeda terrorists, and we're worried about them. but we're not worried about Americans who may be killed as a result of this report. I mean, where is the moral equivalency here? So what are we talking about? We're talking about assuming that she's right, assuming that these 3 people who were waterboarded were treated horribly. That's 3 al-Qaeda terrorists were treated badly. So it's so important that the world find out about that we're willing to risk the murder of American citizens. This is absolutely disgraceful.
Very quickly, Pete, we've got about a minute left. To the budget situation, that agreement that the Speaker put together, is it going to hold for a vote on Thursday? Characterize what's happening now with the minute that remains.
Yeah, we have a meeting actually coming up this morning, later this morning, and we're going to better read. Right now, I think that you will see the omnibus bill or the omnibus bill there, as they're talking about it. I think it will pass. I think almost all Republicans will vote for it, and a number of Democrats, so it will pass. And I think it's important to do it to get us into the new year so we can start with a clean slate and really lay out a Republican agenda for the next 2 years.
And again, this funding is funding that will go on through September or just until the early part of the year?
It'll be, my understanding, it'll be September 30th for everything except Homeland Security, which will probably be either the end of February or the end of March. And the reason for that is that that's where the President's executive order is going to be implemented out of.
Fair enough. Peter King, keep us updated. We appreciate your time today, and we appreciate your insights. Having served as chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security, we look forward to your next visit with us. And there is more ahead right after we step aside for this news update.